2015 first generation 8L90 valve body. There's some updates that have changed over the years. We're going to go over some parts that need to be removed and identifying some parts as far as the separator plate and check ball locations. So the first thing we're going to do is take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 7mm bolts out of the valve body. We'll take this plate off next. These are 8mm, the rest of them. Alright, this is the channel plate. Underneath the channel plate is a separator plate. So, one section that I want to look at here in the valve body, real quick, let me grab a scribe or something to identify. This check ball right here, this is the number 10 check ball. So, if you have two holes where the check ball needs to seat one way and then needs to seat the other way, the check ball needs to be there. If one of these holes has a cat eye, yes, a cat eye cut, it doesn't matter if the check ball is there or not. That is one thing to note with the first gen and second gen and even the third gen, which is a what they call a service valve body. And after that, in 2019 is where we began making a lot of changes as far as the shift solenoid valve 4. Grab one thing. We're going to be going over a lot of this stuff here next. But today we're going to focus on the valve body. So that check ball needs to be there when we're using the separator plate. Now if there's damage to the separator plate, when you order a new one, make sure that that design kind of matches and matters to what I said about the number 10 check ball. So 1, 2, and I believe there are 3. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Alright, underneath the channel plate, the separator plate, removing the check balls. These are your signal feed pulse dampeners. That hydraulic pressure that comes in is dampened, that goes to the solenoid that acts on the pressure for the valve in order to stroke the valve. Now, these I'm going to take out. Springs first. These are like little pistons that seat down into the casting of the valve body, and they're very notorious for wearing out and causing shift complaints. Let's see, one more here. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, I'm gonna grab something to pull those up and we're gonna take a look at them. It's gonna be easy to do this way. Snap ring pliers. These are Mac Tools, part number P23A, for somebody that asked about these. Just gonna go in here. I'm gonna spread them out and pull it up. Don't see any wear on that one, but that doesn't mean that the casting may not be worn out. It is one major problem with high mileage units. The anodizing will be worn off completely on some of them when I usually see them. But there are aftermarket kits to repair these valve bodies. Transgo, Sonax, and Superior. That one right there. She is pretty worn out. So typically most of the time I use the Sonex zip kits. There are two zip kits. One that is the TCC zip kit and one that is the Shift zip kit. You can use the ones with Transgo if you can't get the ones with Sonex. That's typically what I get, and that one's worn out as well. I'm not being biased or anything, but I do like Sonex. And everybody knows that I like Sonex. Oh, that one's not wanting to come out. I need to get a straighter one. And that one's worn out too. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take and separate the two halves. The separator plate on this one is retained by two retainers right here. So there can be two style valve bodies in the later generations, whether it has stop start or not. There are three large check balls that will be in place if it does. Fall over. I believe in this one there's only one large check ball and one small check ball. Check ball location for the small is right here. The large check ball is going to be here. Now if this was a start stop unit, there would be three large check balls. One will be here. This will be redesigned in this section, and a check ball will be there. I believe, no, it's right here. Sorry. It will be redesigned for another large check ball here, and one check ball that's going to be here, and that is for the stop start accumulator or hydraulic pump, depending on which design it has. Somebody's out there racing. I don't know if y'all heard that or not. We'll get something to pop these two tabs off, and we're going to talk about what is located right here. See if this one's thin enough. I can't find my large one. Can't lose that guy. Just right up under here. Just gonna take my time. Everybody's gone home. Everybody's quiet. Slide you over here. Make this a little bit easier. Don't want to tear that guy. I want to try to clean him off and reuse him. These first gen design plates are not that easy to get a hold of. Alright, check ball locations in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 4 there, but there's a 5th one right here. This is the number 7 check ball, and it needs to be removed every time that this is serviced, taken apart, and repaired. What this causes is this little check ball right here comes over here and starves. It gets stuck in this little channel, and it starves lubrication in the transmission, and it will cause it to overheat. There's actually a bulletin to do that, and why it was omitted. We take that guy, throw him in the trash. Let these drain for a minute, and then we're going to take them apart. Let me take the pump apart. I'll do that one last thing before I do disassemble, because what I'm going to do is make sure most of the oil is drained off. Then I'm going to disassemble the valve body before I clean it. come on. You jumped off me. These are 5-10 millimeter bolts that hold the pump to the valve body. Yes, you heard that right. Let me see, with this pump design, I need to look at the webbing. I'm gonna have to look and see. There's a second design pump that has strengthened webbing here, and I believe this one might not be updated. Typically when I do see it updated, this gasket here is what's important. So if you're gonna reuse the pump, there's nothing wrong with it. You just reseal it, put it back together. The gasket that came off of it is the gasket that needs to go back. So this is a thick gasket. There are 2 dimensions with the pump assembly, because if you mix match them, you may not have any line pressure and no movement. All right, and I'll be back. All right, we're going to take apart the solenoid control valve body section that has all the solenoids here. And we're going to start with the 1357 accumulator. It has a little snap ring, then you have a plate, then you have a spring, and then you have a piston. This accumulator does like to get wear in the back of the valve body. Is you going to come out? And you typically won't see that on the piston, but basically it's a side load deal that takes and wears out a casting in the valve body. I'm going to take and move that guy over here first. Put him right there. Alright, the next thing we're going to do first solenoid, and I'm going to keep these in line when I go to put them back. Got retaining clips that hold the solenoids. And careful, you will cut an O-ring if you're trying to reuse them, because I know some guys that do. Take and play that guy right here. We're going to remove the valve from the valve body. I'm going to barely move on the spring and push the spring back. Now, I think that I did see quite a few comments in the last video talking about a hairline fracture or a crack in the PR valve section. I'll talk about that, because I think what you're seeing basically is the machining process. It looks like a crack, but it's not a crack. We're going to put him in line just like that. Do that to every single one of them. As soon as you take it out, put it right where it needs to go in line. I'll push that in a little bit maybe. Do not want to deform the casting. Be easy. I suggest you keep them in order and do not mix them up. They all have their own solenoid characteristic flow rates that is programmed into the software. So every time that if you are replacing a valve body, there is a part unique number that comes with the valve body that needs to be programmed for the solenoid strategy. Give me the spring today. I've seen some videos where we have talked and discussed about how you disassemble and clean the valve body. I've seen some people that just take the whole valve body itself, shoot it all down, or throw it in the parts washer. I do not suggest putting it in the parts washer. The reason why I do that is that I don't want to score anything in the valve or in the bore unless it's a valve that I'm really taking and changing, but or oversizing, reaming, and that's something that if this was a 19-year model and shift solenoid valve 4, which is all right, I know this is TCC. I believe it's this guy. I'm thinking it's this guy. I don't have it in front of me, but I can talk about it here and later. So we've got that one removed. I am just barely touching on that spring to push that valve out because we don't want to score it. There's some of them that you can get a small flat blade screwdriver and start at the back of the valve and walk it out that way. Just want to get it started. Makes it easy to come out. This is a tedious process. The valve bodies are not really, I want to say that again. The valve bodies are time consuming part of the process. Setting your clutch clearance is a part of the process. Setting your in play is a tedious part of the process. You know, when you see all the sped up videos all the time that they're just take and rip everything apart. I've done some speed runs before, but that was just messing around with some of the other builders. Anytime we kind of did that, we knew that we would have to go back and take it apart and re-verify that we didn't make a mistake or anything like that. I'm going to move that guy over here. I already know where that goes. That can be identified easily. Slide down, make some room. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need a valve and a spring there. Always look at where you are in your steps. So a lot of times that a lot of people will make a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of moving parts in these units. The last solenoid on the side. Very easy. Last valve for you, my friend. Let's see if it just falls out. Oh, it just fell out. Let's see. That is. This is the TCC priority or TCC release. Don't quote me to that, but I know it's a part of the converter hydraulic circuit. I can't remember everything off the top of my head. Can you? Come on out, that guy. The spring's gonna hit me. So on the back side of this has a retainer, see, then a spring, and then a valve. And I've moved you around, didn't I? So you're going to be like that. Just a little bit. We'll shake it up. Come on. I'm shaking y'all with me. This guy's got to come out of here. What that valve looks like, don't it? Looks like actuator feed. This side. This valve looks like actuator feed as well. I think this one might be. I don't have anything in front of me to tell you that, whether it is or not. I can't remember everything. Alright, so of all the pockets, now we have, I do know that this is a default override solenoid, so this is what makes it default to the last gear it could obtain if it loses a gear ratio. And there are 1, 2, 7, I believe these are 7. Nope, they are 8. I'm going to pull a clippy out to get that one. And do be careful and do not break any of these solenoids when you do take them out, because if you do, they are non-serviceable by themselves. And that one and the other one can be, if these two can actually be swapped. They are the same solenoid. Ask me how I know, and I had an apprentice doing an internal harness for P0711, which is fluid temp performance DTC, and it's typically if you pull up the temp on your screen on the dash, you can sit there and just watch it just randomly drop out like 50 to 100 degrees, and it'll come back. It's usually it's always the harness most of the time. Just make sure you're double checking yourselves. Electrical gremlins are always a thing. Don't see anything visual yet, but I'm going to take and clean this off. I'm going to take the last guy out of this one. Retaining clip. And pull that guy out of there. Just easy. Like I said, you break that, just a $1,500 valve body, you don't want to have to try to hunt down and buy. Or if you find a good used one that you can rebuild, hopefully it's cheap enough. So we're going to set the solenoid control valve body to the side, and how they came out was in this orientation. Take and set you here for just a moment. Alright, so in this section I just changed most of the in-bore plugs that have Sonics has O-rings. This is the PR section with a shuttle valve, which is typically your boost valve. That's what raises the line pressure, and a section that we'll talk about with the PR valve has to be with the casting here that may be distorted or broken. I'm not sure where somebody said there might be a crack in the last one, but I do not see anything to worry about visually at this moment. That is a big problem. This transmission has the capability to produce over 500 psi of overall pressure, so directly off the pump straight to the PR valve converter charge. There's a lot of pressure because this one decides low and high line, low and high volume. So it's a I can't remember the word, dual stage. We'll just say dual stage. So it's got low pressure and it'll run low pressure at idle, and then it'll ramp up to a higher pressure that the pump volume can obtain. I'm going to take the PR valve line up out first. Remove the retainer. And we're going to slide the shuttle valve out. That is one thing that is known to wear out. Both Sonex, Transgo, and Superior all have a fix for that. Each individual ones have their own spin on it. So I've already taken the pressure regulator valve spring and the isolator, or shuttle valve they call it, which would be normally the boost valve. This is for your boost pressure. This is where boost oil enters to this side, and there's a shuttle valve that moves up to shift the PR valve, pressure regulator valve. On the next segment, I'm going to be going over the identification of everything within the valve body once we get everything cleaned up. And we're going to go over vacuum testing once everything is there and what we're going to do to fix it. So in the upper control valve body section, let's continue taking that apart. Start across from the PR. I like to work my way down from the top to the bottom. Every time you take anything out, you want to take and inspect it. Like this little in-bore plug itself looks like it has some wear. Make sure as you take it out, you place it exactly how it came out so you don't forget how it goes back in. Go into the back side of the valve. Take and walk it out. See if it flows out. Move down to the next valve. These are little keepers at the end and an in-bore plug on this one as well. Like I said, take it out, place it down just as you took it out. Make sure nobody takes and tries to wrap it up later, or somebody runs into it after I do a full disassembly. I do like to take a picture in case anything moves, and it's something that I can go back and reference. Just also with this stuff, Sonex has information as far as the valve body identification. Here is your early design and late design that would be for shift solenoid valve 4. There's the late design. You can find this information on Sonex's website. You can just bump that thing just a little bit. Just as it came back out, lay it down. Let's see. Now this is overall pressure relief ball and spring that's in this section. This section here, I'm going to have to take something to force down to force the spring in, and then push this dowel out in order to get that out. So I'm going to move on to the next valve section here, push in on the keeper. And the spring comes with this one. There's no in-bore plug on the end of this valve. Let's see if we move freely. It moves freely. I feel like it sticks right there in the bore. That's something that I kind of pay attention to as well. Does the valve move freely in the bore, or is it sticking? And once we get everything cleaned off, we'll take and inspect the valves themselves to see if they have any scoring before we even get to the point to do any kind of vacuum testing. So very important. It is a part of the diagnostic process during teardown and inspection. We need to find root cause of what happened here and what we need to do to fix it. We're going to discuss sections in the casting, like I said, in the valve body here for the PR section, that does like to break. And when it does break, it can cause and wreak all kinds of havoc inside the transmission. It has been known when that section does break that excessive line pressure is pushed throughout the transmission itself, and some hard part damage, very extensive hard part damage, can happen up to the point to where it may even break the case in half. Yes, I said that right. There are instances where that uncontrollable line pressure gets ran away. This is spring and check ball. Too much line pressure is dangerous. Do note. Where I see a lot of fishy stuff with tunes that I see here and there, where I know some of the guys have talked to me and they've sent me their tunes in, and I look at it and I'm like, why is this thing like maxed out on line pressure? And I talk to them and they tell me, well, that's what the tuner told me, that, well, it will never really match. Let me make sure. It'll never really match or reach that pressure. If something has the potential for runaway line pressure, it will. And when it does, things will break. Just a little bit. Gonna move with me. Place it there. All right, let me see. I'm gonna probably grab some pliers. Let's see, so I can push that. Well, no, I got one more before we go to that one. Push in with the heavy spring. We're going to keep that flat blade just a hair in the middle of the spring. That way, when it shoots out, it stays and you never lose it. Don't go flying across the room. I do believe this may be actuator feed limit. I do believe that one might be. We'll find out later. Now, for the last part. With this one first, I'm going to take and press in. I'm pressing open-handed, pressing in on the spring and lifting up at the same time. Just enough to where I'm going to get underneath it with a flat blade screwdriver to push that pin all the way up. And then the spring can stay where I want it to stay and not fly across the room. That's what we got there. We're going to hang on to that. We're going to slide that pin out. Just like that. Now in the end here is a relief. So that is valve body disassembly, and over the next video that I'm going to come up with, I'm going to have everything kind of cleaned up, take everything that I need to put the valve body castings in the parts washer, clean everything up, get all the valves cleaned, and then we'll go back to reassembly and go over some vacuum testing and identification, and we'll get it put together and repaired. We'll see you on the next one.